Hard stop.
Welcome. Oh, man. Somebody called in. Oh, there we are.
Okay,
We're back.
back.
Welcome to Emotion Chips. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 7, where cell phones attached to your operating system interrupt your music.
I appreciate that we're not trying to start again.
No, of course not.
We're rolling with it.
What you get is what you get.
Yeah. Great.
This is episode 7, Emotion Ships, where we talk about the real reason everything happens for a reason. I am your host, Charlie Carroll, here with my lovely co-host, Mallory Redmond.
Hi. Hey.
That was kind of fun. An abrupt stopped.
Yeah. Switching things up.
Yeah. I'm choosing here for those of you that are tuning into our videos that are not only on YouTube, but also on LinkedIn. Whoever thought
Wow.
that LinkedIn would be resurrected from the dead.
We
Yep.
made it.
Yes, this is your parents' social media platform. For those of you that are watching, before I got distracted,
Yeah.
I am putting on some chapstick. I am back from the fresh Florida sun
Yes.
with dry lips.
We're all sad for you because your lips are chapped because you were in the sun.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yes.
it's dumping snow right now where we are.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
I almost got trapped in Detroit this morning. In the wee hours of the morning this morning, I was coming out of Tampa yesterday on American Airlines when they delayed my flight 3 times.
I thought you were on Delta.
Well, originally I was on American Airlines, and they delayed my flight 3 times, which
gotcha.
I know the way this works. I've been flying for a while.
Not your first rodeo.
Not my first rodeo, ladies and gentlemen. Once they delayed my flight for the 3rd time, I said, oops, time to jump on to another carrier because this is not going to end well.
I'm surprised you didn't do the Bruno Mars concert form of transportation.
Yeah, well.
All of your private jets.
Yeah. Yes. Nope, not doing
this
that.
time.
I try to save money whenever possible.
You're so frugal.
Yeah.
Okay, so you almost got...
So I waddled on over to Delta and used some points and got on a flight to fly to Detroit instead of Charlotte with American Airlines. And so our flight was scheduled to land at 8:30. We landed about 8:35. And my flight from Detroit to Dayton, which I never fly into Dayton, but this is what was available coming out of Tampa, was scheduled to leave at 9:05, which means they shut down boarding at 8:50.
Right.
And so we land at 8:30, and of course, because it was a last-second decision, I'm in row 32, back of the bus, and now everyone is taking their time to get their luggage to get off the plane.
Yes.
And so at 8:40, I get into Terminal A2 in Detroit and have to get to C22, which for those of you that are familiar with the Detroit airport, you know that it is an absolute long journey to get from A2 to C22. And so I sprinted the whole way.
Did you have luggage or did you
I
check
did.
your bag?
I had an overhead. And I had my backpack on my back, and I would guess it was a solid 3/4 of a mile from A2 to C22. And as it turns 8:50, the nice woman from Delta Airlines, shout out to Delta Airlines, looks down the long hallway to see if anybody like myself is running. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, she saw me and held the door open. I was the last one to board the plane. We get on the plane at, I'm there right at 8:50, 8:51. Get on the plane, and it's now snowing. There's about 2 inches on the ground
Mm-hmm.
up there,
Mm-hmm.
and they push us back. We're on the tarmac when the pilot comes across and says, "Folks, it's going to be a little bit of time. There are 15
No,
Fif-
thank you.
15 aircrafts in front of us
Mm-mm.
that all need to be de-iced before we can get de-iced." And so, long story short, we went from 8:50 to 10:50. Yeah,
What?
yeah, sitting there.
You were on the
Yep.
on the tarmac for 2 hours.
Yep, before we took off and landed.
Why did they make you get on the plane? You had to get in line?
Yeah,
They wanted to get in line.
yeah. The plane goes off into this big.
You would
Open
think,
space.
though, Detroit, it's not like, I mean, they are familiar with snow.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that they were that backed up 15, but
No shout out
I don't
to
know.
Detroit.
Yeah. I mean, you can't complain too much. What, they're not gonna de-ice you and then you take off, and no bueno. So
That's rough.
got back.
Were
in
there babies on the plane? You wouldn't know. You had your noise canceling headphones on.
Yeah, here they are, right here, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, very close. I was trying to nod off,
Yeah.
but I did not hear any babies. It was a full plane though, full flight.
Not
I didn't
much else you
know
can do.
that many people fly back to Dayton on a Wednesday night.
The things that you get to experience when you fly with normal people.
Traveling all the time.
Yes. So you were in Tampa.
I was in Tampa doing a couple of things for business. Really cool. Got to go to Oak and Ola, which for those of you that are listening that are Daytonians, Chef Ann Kearney, she used to be here in Dayton
Mm-hmm.
at Rue de Maine. It is her new restaurant in
Nice.
Tampa. I wanted to make sure that we stopped in while we were there
Yeah.
to check out her new place, and it's really cool. Oak
Yeah.
and Ola. You
I
should
didn't
check
get
it
a
out.
chance. I didn't get a chance to eat at Rue de Maine when she was still here, but I heard only good things.
Yeah, really
about
good. I walked away from. I saw her Monday and Tuesday.
You ate there at the same restaurant
We
twice?
ate there Monday and Tuesday. Had a
Wow.
conversation with her on Tuesday, and she's just so bright,
Yeah.
really bright, full of life. Her food is absolutely amazing.
What'd you have?
I had a couple of things. I was with other people, and we just had. We ordered several dishes and then
Nice.
split them. There was a red snapper that was amazing. The flavors were out of this world. We had a pate.
Uh-huh.
We had an airline chicken, all of which was really good. And then we
Nice.
had the pommes frites or French
Yes.
fries
Yes.
that I think were double fried. So good.
Wow.
Yeah. But she's really bright. And for those of you that do not know, Google her, Ann Kearney, just like
Mhm.
it sounds.
Mhm.
She has won more than one James Beard Award,
It's awesome.
which if you are in the restaurant world or hospitality world, you know that's a big deal.
Really big deal.
And she's so down to earth. It's awesome. I mean, just easy to talk to. Our server had only been there 3 months, and he was talking about how kind and loving she is, and that she's the kindest person he has ever worked for.
Wow.
And so that's really cool when you
Yeah.
have somebody that's super accomplished that has not lost their sense of direction when it comes
For
to
sure.
love and kindness.
For sure. I love that.
But we also got a chance to go to Burns Steakhouse.
Yes, which I've heard about now several times from people.
I absolutely love Burns Steakhouse.
Would you say top 5?
Oh yeah,
Top 3?
Top 3. Yeah, top 3. So amazing.
Whoa, okay.
Again, a James Beard Award winner for their wine selection.
Okay.
I could talk about Burns Steakhouse for hours.
Would you like to?
I mean, I do, yes. I want to, yes, but I don't know if our
Nobody wants to
listeners.
listen to
Yeah.
hours of you talking about
They have the largest wine collection for a restaurant in the world.
Really?
The whole basement is wine going back to the 1830s. So a lot of people fly there from all over the world to get their birth year wine,
Oh, okay.
which this is my second year doing that. I drank another 1978.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to think about all that went into that wine.
Yeah.
We had a Bordeaux, and actually 1978 was really the only good year for Bordeaux in in the wine world in France.
Huh.
So pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's our server has been there for 37 years.
Wow.
His name is Drew. If you ever go to Burns Steakhouse, look him up. Make sure that you check him out. We have a special guest walking in the room.
Oh, jeez.
Nobody can see her, but this is Evie. Evie belongs
That's my
to
daughter. Hi,
yes,
babe.
belongs to Mal. We have to somehow. Okay,
I'm a
come
working
on
mom,
in here.
everybody.
Hi.
Hi, girl.
She's pretty amazing.
I love you.
She's awesome.
'Kay.
Hi.
See you
Bye,
later.
Ev. She's too awesome.
Okay.
See you. But Drew is amazing and been there 37 years. Has never missed a day of work in his life. He has been coming to, he's a very special individual, has been coming to Burns for 37 years, 7 days a week, and is still helping to take care of and be a personal assistant to Mrs. Burns. Mr. Burns passed a couple of years ago.
Okay.
She is in her upper or late 90s.
Oh, wow.
And he helps her every day and is very proud that he has been in the restaurant 365 days a year for 37 years. Never.
He should be very proud of that. That is, I've never heard of something like that before.
It is insane.
So Burns Steakhouse is open every day of the year,
yeah.
and he has been there
He's
every
been there,
day,
yeah.
37
Yeah.
years.
They might not be there for Christmas or be open on Christmas. I'm not sure, but I imagine, having met Drew now 2 years in a row, that he is probably there for some reason on Christmas doing
Sure.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked him if he ever gets sleep, and he said sometimes he sleeps for a couple of hours and sometimes it's there at the restaurant. Mrs. Burns,
Really?
from what I hear, relies on him a lot.
Wow.
But they have, it's the most amazing thing. They have over 1 million wines.
See, I was just out to dinner a week or so ago, actually celebrating your wife's birthday. Happy
There you
belated
go.
birthday, Amy.
Yes.
But we went out to dinner, and I'm terrible at picking out wines.
Sure.
Here's what I do. Do I want red or white?
Yeah.
That night I wanted red.
Yeah.
And then I look at the price of a glass, and I never do the cheapest, and I never do the most expensive.
Yes. I can announce, because I've already purchased it,
Oh, jeez.
I want to do something with wine to make it easier for people.
Yeah.
I bought the URL and have the handle on Instagram for Dumb Wine Deals.
Okay.
And it's going to be a story-based approach to wine.
I love it.
Yeah, because most people are like you.
Yep.
Right? And it's the same thing for me at times.
Yeah.
That you just
Is it?
to an extent.
Let's be
just,
real.
Just,
Let's be real.
just a different extent,
Okay.
right? That sometimes you don't know about the vineyard or the family or the grape. And
Right.
it's really cool to know. It's a story.
Yeah.
It's the summary. That bottle of wine is the summary of a story.
Yeah.
And so when you know the story, it's really cool to drink that bottle of wine or that glass of wine with friends and think about all that went into it.
That's
It might
true.
not be a big deal to you, but there are a lot of people that worked hard to get that in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you're ever in Tampa, you need to go to Burns Steakhouse.
Okay, noted.
It's the craziest thing. Mr. Burns was so far and ahead of himself. Truly a visioneer.
Yeah.
Just back in the 60s, buying a lot of every year of different kinds of wine. And now, 60 years later, people come there from all over the world to buy their birth year wines. And the food is great. And
Yeah.
they've never lost who they are. Just, it is really fascinating. You need to get to Burns if you're ever in the Tampa Bay area.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah,
I heard they have a dessert room too.
they do. And the rooms that you sit in are made out of former wine barrels.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, their selection for wine and spirits and dessert wines is just through the roof.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Which brings me to my lunch that I just came back from.
Okay. You're just taking us on a little tour of your meals.
Just jumping all over the place. I say this because there's a quote on the wall that I really love, that I've always loved since I went in there the first time a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Wheat Penny here in Dayton has a quote on the wall that says, "Stress does not exist in the presence of a pizza."
Amen.
Right?
I love it.
For all of you that are stressed out, you
Just
can probably
get yourself
testify.
around a pizza.
Get a hanky and start waving it. You can testify that stress does not exist in the presence of a pizza.
Oh my goodness. It's true. I can testify to that. Especially pizza at Wheat Penny. They have delicious pizza.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story in itself that we will explore maybe at another time. That it is actually a very old recipe. The crust is a very old recipe from Italy, from the chef/owner's mother, I believe, or grandmother.
Okay.
And it's been preserved for all of these years. A very particular way of doing things.
Maybe we need to start a second podcast about
Food?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
clearly there's a lot to say.
well,
More you than me.
just a little refresher here. When people hear that I'm doing a podcast, they ask me what it's about, and I say it's about emotion chips. And everybody kind of has this look on their face like, okay, tell me more.
Right,
Like,
of
what
course.
in the world's that about? And just as a refresher, an emotion chip is the emotional relationship to all of our relationships in life. And I say this because we all have an emotional relationship to pizza.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to food in general,
Mm-hmm.
but to pizza. And for a lot of us, it's a way of rewarding ourselves.
Yeah.
That we don't have to make it.
Yeah.
Or it was something that our family did together when we were little. Or when you're just absolutely stressed out and you can't think about lifting another finger to make dinner, you order pizza.
Yep. Nice and easy.
And so an emotion chip is the emotional relationship to all of our other relationships in life.
Mm-hmm.
That we have an emotional relationship to the idea of a mother, a father, our parents. We have an emotional connection to our food. We have an emotional relationship to the automobile that we drive, or the name brands that we see driving down the highway.
Mm-hmm.
We have an emotional relationship to the idea of failure and success. Like everything, there's an emotional relationship to everything, and it's often that emotional relationship that is actually the decision maker, and it's driving things in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, welcome. That's the first thing.
Yes.
But second, that's what we spend the time exploring on this podcast, is what's really happening here. And that's why we say the real reason why everything happens for a reason, because too often in life, things stack up on us and we find ourselves managing consequences or reactions or manifestations of things and not getting to the heart of the issue. And the thing that's so frustrating about that is that things don't change.
Yeah.
And you know, that was kind of what Mr. Miyagi was doing with Daniel-san. You know, when he started to train him, he knew that he had to get past the actual work or art of fighting and train him on some basic things as to what was happening. And he did it in creative ways like wax on, wax off, to purposefully fool Daniel-san's mind, because Daniel-san already thought he knew what was going to happen, or that he already knew what he was doing, or how he should actually block. And so the best teachers in the world are those that know how to teach someone something, but often have to disrupt what they already have concluded or assumed to be true. And really what they're doing is they're getting to the emotion ship. They're getting to the energy that is in motion, and they're disrupting that, or they're teaching something new so that the person can actually be empowered to make a change and make a difference.
Sure. Yep.
And so that's what this podcast is about, is we're just getting to the actual things that are happening in life, the actual energy that surrounds any particular situation, so that you can grab a hold of your life and start steering versus constantly reacting to everything.
Yep.
Because that's where people get really frustrated, right? They realize that they don't like their life, they don't like their situation, they don't like their job, but they're managing the wrong things. They're not getting to the heart of the issue. And so that's what Emotion Chips is about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really easy to, especially when things get hard, to feel like you are out of control. You are so far from, you can't even see the steering wheel, let alone be controlling it.
going back to our conversation here about stress and that our quote, right, with Wheat Penny.
Yeah.
Stress cannot exist in the presence of a pizza. You're right about control, a sense of control. Mm-hmm. That ultimately, at the end of the day, stress is the killer. Everybody will talk about cigarettes and cancer and food and 1,000 other things. But at the end of the day, by far, the most detrimental thing to your biology is stress. And what people don't realize is, like, let's get to the emotion ship behind stress. Because if you can conquer your stress in life, it has such a multiplication factor when it comes to our compounding factor, when it comes to benefits in your life. If you can manage and conquer your stress, you are going to be so much better off because of what stress does to the body.
Yeah.
When you are under stressed, or when you are under stress and you aren't aware of it, or you don't know how to handle it, it affects your biology in so many ways that you are unaware of. It's almost like chopping off your legs and arms. Mm-hmm. And what most people don't know is that stress all comes down to one word, and it's not stress. That stress comes down to one word, and it is uncertainty.
Yeah.
All stress in life comes down to uncertainty. That is an incredible example of an emotion ship. Stress is not, typically, stress is not what you are identifying as stress. Stress is the uncertainty surrounding that situation that is keeping you in a state of flux. The body goes into a state of fight or flight when it is out of control, which means when it's dealing with uncertainty.
Yeah. And I mean, even just thinking about uncertainty, I mean, that can be connected to any situation, right? Yeah. Like our finances, our relationship, our housing, like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Which I say that to say, like, stress is, there are millions of invitations every single day for each person on the world, on the planet to be stressed, and therefore invitations for us to have our body just thrown right out of whack because of it.
Yeah, I had a little bit of time when I was in Tampa on Monday and Tuesday to just walk, to be in the sunshine and to walk. Mm-hmm. And I was, that's kind of been my opportunity over the last 2 years, maybe a little longer, that I'm taking very seriously, and that is to separate what is happening outside my physical being from what is happening inside. And to quit allowing the things that I'm going through, or the things that I feel like I'm up against, or the things that are not going the way I thought they would, to cause so much disruption and uncertainty on the inside of me. And that's the beauty of faith, and the role, one of the primary roles of faith is believing in what is not seen. And even to a further extent, it's having faith that there is a power that is greater than you, that sees and knows all things, that is looking out for you and actually is going to make all things work together for good. And it's on the last episode, we had that quote from Nelson Mandela that he got through everything that he got through and rose to power and led a nation after being imprisoned unfairly, because he believed that life by faith, life was happening for him, not to him. And every trying, difficult circumstance in his life was being used to set him up and prepare him for something greater. And that is faith. And that's why faith allows you to be certain in the midst of uncertainty.
So what if you have a unhealthy emotion ship with faith?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What if you, like millions of people in this country, have had a very bad experience with church or a faith community, where their immaturity, ignorance, or even evil in some situations, purposefully created environments where people could be manipulated for that leader's good. And I say that because not all of the cases where people have been hurt were intentional. It just came down to ignorance on that pastor or priest's or faith leader's part. Some of it was intentional, right? We see that with some of the abuse cases in the Catholic Church, etc. What do? I think that it's important to understand that happens in every environment, not just in a faith environment, that there are people with good intentions that just fall short and accidentally mislead people while doing their best. And then there are also those situations where someone takes advantage of other people for their selfish gain. I think it's why an approach to faith has to be a journey to seek truth, which by definition is that which adheres to the facts, versus blindly putting your trust in anyone and kind of putting it on autopilot for them to tell you everything about who God is, how faith works, and what you should do next. I think the healthiest teachers, pastors, priests, leaders, are those that empower other people and push them in the right direction and say, you're going to have to do this for yourself. I can't do it for you. Not people who make others dependent upon them. And for me, that's a huge difference. To me, the real leaders do not enable people or do not use them to fund their projects or whatever it is, but instead point them in a direction where they can go figure it out for themselves. Sometimes, because I have definitely unintentionally and ignorantly, because of my ignorance, hurt people. And when they bring that to your attention, you can own it and apologize and acknowledge that was never your intention. But I think there's something to be said about finding people that will empower you versus make you dependent upon them. And so for those that are in that situation where you have been hurt by someone else, I think you're going to have to work really hard to go back on the journey and just chalk that up or realize that you got bad advice, or maybe you were in a vulnerable state, or maybe you inherited it from ignorant parents that just were taught that you trust anyone that wears a white coat that's called a doctor. Anyone that's a priest or a pastor or a faith leader gets a blank check to do whatever they want. Like, we're not that old, honestly, as a nation and as a civilization. You look at what has transpired from the time of antiquity to the age of Rome and the Catholic Church to now. I mean, there's just so much that has changed as the world got connected and really started speaking in one language via mass communication, television, the radio, and the internet. And so it's hard because there are people that really, really have been abused, and their life has been dramatically affected by someone else's ignorance or selfish intent. And so it's hard to say to those people, hey, you need to just chalk that up to a learning experience. But again, overall, bigger picture as a nation, as a civilization, sometimes unfortunately, you get hurt or abused by or fall prey to or are a victim of what we did not know. Now it's a little more difficult to pull that off, compared to, like the story Spotlight, where the Washington Post broke the story of the sexual abuse within the Catholic Church in the Boston area.
Yeah.
It's becoming more and more difficult to pull that off because now, as a civilization, as a people, We're much more informed via sources that you can expose on your phone or in the privacy of your own home, just the information that we have access to. And so I would just say that if you're in that situation, I don't really like the adage, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it's true in this situation. Like, you have to understand that in some cases, people started off with in a lot of cases, people started off with a really good intent, but then as the pressure as a leader mounted on them, that forced a lot of the trauma and things that they inherited from their family up and out of them, and they made bad decisions. But it's not beneficial to always put a face on our problems and say that person is my problem, because to every action there is a reaction. And like Nelson Mandela, though unfair things happen to us, and it's not good, right? Like, nobody's happy about that for anyone. Mm-hmm. You still have to have a reaction to the unfair action or the disappointing or devastating action that happened in your life. Whether you like it or not, you have to. No reaction is a reaction, right? And so you have to choose to move forward and believe by faith that this situation can be used to further you and help other people, versus be a victim to it and stay stuck there as a victim in the consequences of where you're at.
You lost me at no reaction is a reaction. I've kind of been trailing since then.
Perfect. Well, so when we get hurt or disappointed by leaders in life, choosing to stay there and be angry at them.
No reaction. Yeah. Not having a reaction
is an action. Yeah.
Okay.
No reaction is an action.
Okay, I was hearing it differently.
Well, maybe I said it differently.
No. You said those words, but I was hearing there is no react. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Not having a reaction is a reaction.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Can someone please add in some sort of comments that you were with me on that?
Oh, I'm sure.
I heard the same words you were saying, but I heard them in different meaning.
Yeah, and so that being said, just when we get hurt or disappointed by or become a victim of other people's choices, right, whether they were intentional or not with the other person, you got to keep moving. Yeah. Right? You got to keep you got to say, I'm going to grow and I'm going to learn from this, and now I know that I can't do that anymore, that is not beneficial to me. That did not serve me. Yeah. But that being said, just because somebody else was ignorant doesn't make faith or church or a parish or a synagogue a bad thing, right? All institutions, all of them, education, everything, restaurants, right? It doesn't matter, that are ran by humans, all institutions or organizations that are ran by a human being are going to be imperfect. Yeah. And the goal there is to keep moving forward and to learn from our mistakes and find healthy communities where we can contribute, where we, as an imperfect person, can contribute. Yeah. And so that's what I would say. And where this comes from is your question, what would you say to the person that has been hurt by the very organizations or institutions that promote faith as a solution to uncertainty? What would you say to them? And I would just say that by faith, you got to keep moving forward and not let one poor experience that might be the result of or the compounding interest from ignorance generations ago keep you from pursuing truth for yourself. A real, healthy faith journey is pursued by individuals on an individual level, right? So here's kind of the caveat or the duplicity in it all. You have to pursue your faith relationship yourself. You have to take responsibility for that. Yeah, okay, you're disappointed in your parents' faith and what they led you into. Don't allow that to keep you on the sideline and not pursue it for yourself, or guess what? You're just as guilty as they are. And so the first point is you've got to pursue it for yourself. But the second point is just because you've got to pursue faith and truth for yourself, right? Truth is that which adheres to the facts, doesn't mean you do it alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't.
No.
So would you say, I was just making a note here because I didn't want to forget it. Like, are these mutual exclusive when we're talking about faith and stress?
Right.
So do you have to have a healthy faith, healthy like emotionship with faith, or be in a healthy spot with your faith in order to respond to stress in a healthy way?
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's a quick answer, yes, but let's break this down for a second.
Yeah, we need to break it down.
Yeah. First of all, faith does not have to be limited to a religious experience. All religious experiences are built on faith, but faith does not exist and dwell alone within religious circles. Everyone, this is what is absolutely hilarious when you allow like mass media to define what is real and what is not real, because what you end up having is ideas that aren't real. They're emotion ships, and they're emotion ships that are designed on purpose so that people get taken advantage of and buy and read books. Here's what I mean by that.
Yeah, can you give an example?
Yeah. Okay. Everyone lives their life by faith. Everyone. Right? It actually takes more faith to be an atheist than it does name your religion. Mm-hmm. People get in their car every day and drive to work believing that their car is not going to break down. They drive to work believing that someone is not going to be looking at a text or what have you, a social media post, and accidentally come across the lane and hit them head on. Kobe, which we mentioned in our last episode 6, literally put his life and his daughter's life by faith in the hands of that helicopter, in the hands of that pilot, in the presence of uncertainty, which was the weather. And so we don't realize that everyone lives a lot of their life by faith each and every day. Pizza, when you order your next pizza, you are eating it by faith, believing that the person that made it did not have a bad day and think it would be funny to spit on your pizza or do something nasty to your pizza.
Oh, gosh. Why'd you have to say that?
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, so much of our life is rooted and grounded in faith. The question is not, right, for everybody out there, and I get really excited about this because
I can tell you're getting a little fired up.
Yeah. Well, there are so many people out there that have bought into this goofy narrative that was created by a salesman, that the people that have faith are the weirdos, and there is so much science out there that proves that, this or that faith is not legitimate. Well, first of all, science is the study of, by definition. Science is not a destination, it's a process. Mm-hmm. Well, science proves that creation doesn't exist. Science is the study of, in that sense, creation and what really did happen. It's not science versus anything. Science validates things. That's the first point. The second point is everybody lives their life by faith. The question is not if you have faith, it's who you have faith in. And that's why I just chuckle when people talk about your truth. Live your truth. Your truth. It's about your truth. No, it's not. That's the goofiest advice ever. Truth, by definition, is that which adheres to the facts. You can say that your truth is that gravity doesn't exist. I mean, if you fall off that roof, gravity is going to prove to you otherwise. Mm-hmm. right? Yeah. And so that's why it's important for faith leaders to help people truly get connected to the fact that there is a God that exists and God is for them and is working all things together for good. And there are conditions to that. Like, you have to be open to direction, to being guided by a higher power and led by a higher power if you're going to be protected and led to the right places at the right times with the right people, right? There's a lot there. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, God is the one that created us and knows that our system does not handle uncertainty well. And so the only way to be certain in the presence of uncertainty, which, oh, by the way, you need uncertainty in order to grow and become who you're called to be, the only way for that to happen is faith, the role of faith, right? When you're working out, you are putting your muscles in an uncertain position, and they respond by getting stronger. Mm-hmm. And so uncertainty is necessary. The right kinds of uncertainty are necessary, but they cannot be handled and used for our benefit unless faith is involved. And someone will say, well, I don't believe in faith. Yes, you do. You've just not understood it correctly, and you've let somebody else shape the role of faith for you, or the wounds that you inherited or experienced for yourself. And now that's driving you away from faith, which is the very thing you need to take on the uncertainty, challenges, opportunities, in order to get to that next place.
Yeah.
Everyone demonstrates faith. It's not if you have faith, it's who you have faith in. And so the atheist says to me, well, I don't believe that God exists, that your God exists. And I said, no problem, right? That's not a big deal. I'm not trying to get you to believe in my God. I want you to experience God for yourself. Mm-hmm. And to do that, you're going to have to go on a truth journey. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. That's what I did. I didn't want to, I read other people's opinions, but I had to do it for myself. And that's where my life really, really changed, when I wanted to have a faith of my own and not just believe my parents' faith.
Yeah.
And so faith is an absolute must. People are practicing it every single day in order to deal with uncertainty. And then the question becomes, again, not if you have faith, but who you have faith in. Mm-hmm. Most people have faith in themselves. And then they shut down or cave into and are affected by, biologically, uncertainty when it's greater than their faith, because their faith was never meant to be rooted and grounded in their self, which is the same self that has to be put under extreme stress in order to grow and get closer to that eternal destiny/dream that is bigger than they are, that they really, really want, but can't get to without a faith that's not rooted and grounded in someone or something stronger than them to help them get there. That was a lot.
Do you want to take a sip of water or something?
I should. I forgot my water.
Well, so here's my question then, and maybe this isn't the right question. I don't know, but I'm going to ask it. So we talk about emotionships and the awareness that this provides us so that we can drive the car, right? Yeah. Like, so that we can have our hands on the steering wheel. In light of what you're saying, though, we don't have our hands on the steering, or we shouldn't have. If we're talking about who our faith is in.
Yeah.
Do we want our hands on the steering wheel?
Well, it's a good question.
Is it the wrong question for me now?
No. Every analogy breaks down at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
I think ultimately we have to have our hands on the wheel. If I was going to get super technical with the language here, mm-hmm. we have to have our hands on the wheel, but we have to be able to take direction and have, quote unquote, a GPS device that has a much greater perspective and much more data than we have, directing us as to where we take the turns.
That's good.
And so that's how I'm telling you.
What are you telling us?
People cannot get to where they're going without faith helping them have certainty in the midst of uncertainty. You look at all of the great heroes of faith, and you will see them being put in life-threatening situations, which were very uncertain, where their faith, they were so certain in their faith and who was with them and who was guiding them, that they rose to a place of prominence and influence because they survived a very uncertain situation. Moses crossing the Red Sea, David fighting Goliath, Daniel in a fiery furnace, Esther, right, saving her whole nation and being a woman and speaking up in the presence or in a culture that was very anti, that did not give women a voice or a position of influence and leadership. And so it's faith is absolutely necessary in the presence of uncertainty. Stress, right, is necessary in order to help us grow and get to where we're going and to become more mature people. But we have to have the tools to respond to it, which is faith rooted and grounded in the character of a being, a supernatural, eternal being that is working for us and is for us more than or greater than the problem that we're up against.
Yeah.
And so your life will be defined by what you determine to be too big for the person or the entity that you put your faith in, that your faith rests in.
Yeah.
And so in my situation, that's God. And so every time, let's get super practical here. Every time I feel like I don't have enough money to do what I'm doing, operating the businesses that I'm operating, or that a certain person or situation is too big or too difficult for me, that uncertain situation is challenging the strength or the size of my faith.
Yeah.
Which faith says everything's going to work out. It might be painful, but this situation will serve you and it will work in the end for your overall good.
And I feel like intellectually, I know that.
Sure.
I'm just working on, there's like this period of time when I'm up against something or when I'm feeling stress.
Sure.
There's a period of time that I freak out. And then I get there. And then I get to then I ground myself and I'm like, okay, this is, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. This will all work out for good. But it's that period of time that like, it really, it's impacting me physically. It is impacting me. And I know you'll talk about that and you have talked about that. That is where I'm at still, is I can't get there right away.
Sure.
I still spiral.
Well, you're a human being, right? And it's learned. It's why, going back to the 20-mile march and getting away or withdrawing first thing in the morning is so important, because you have to remind yourself of these things, that God is for me, that all things will work together for good, right? That I am being led, that God knows what I'm up against and wants to know me and wants to direct me and guide me. But it's not uncommon to have these things take the air out of you. The real question comes down to, how long does it take you to confront the uncertainty with certainty, which is your faith.
Yeah.
And so there is no way. I see all these commercials right now for the thing that you put around your abs that like contract your abs. It's a TENS unit. It stimulates and contracts the muscle in your abs, which is kind of like this shortcut, right? Where it's trying to grow your abs without you having to go through the pain and do all of the work. Well, it's still contracting the muscle, and that's why I don't know that it works, or if it's just a 1-800 sales thing. But there's no way around you having to be put in the presence of uncertainty for your faith to grow. And so the question really just comes down to, how long does it take you to confront what you're up against with what you believe in? And so people were never made, our bodies were not made to live in chronic stress, to be exposed to chronic uncertainty. We could spend hours talking about the biological effects of stress. When we're stressed, or when we allow our uncertainty to be bigger than our certainty, the body goes into what is called fight or flight mode, where God made us to be able to respond quickly to an emergency situation. And this is why you read stories of mothers like literally lifting up a car to move it off of their child, type of thing. And so short bursts of uncertainty are fine, but not chronic uncertainty.
So can we get away from that fight or flight response? Because it is something that is in us in some ways to help us, right? In a lot of ways to help us.
Yeah.
So is that something that we are, as we work to get a healthier response to stress, is that something that we're trying to move away from? Is that fight or flight?
Well, chronically living in it, you can do it for short periods of time, and it's fine, right? Like, people use the example of running from a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. Like, God made us in a way that when our eyes see the threat, or the car, someone's trapped in the car that's on fire, we get the hypothalamus releases and signals the adrenal glands, and we get this burst of testosterone and other hormones that serve us. They flow throughout our blood. They leave the heart and the visceral organs, right? Your internal, like the center of who you are. They go to your legs and arms so that you have this superhuman strength and you can accomplish the task. But it affects your capillaries. It does so much that long term you can't stay stuck in that situation. It suppresses 60% of your immune system, because you don't need an immune system to jump a ravine or to climb a tree or to break that car window. So it shuts that down. Your digestive system is controlled by your nervous system. When you're in fight or flight, it wrecks it's because you have a reaction by your nervous system. Your reproductive glands, this is why so many people cannot get pregnant, because your body is not positioned correctly to have children or to get pregnant when you are in fear of, or your life is in jeopardy. Like, all of these things, insomnia, you're not going to sleep well at all.
No.
When you live in the presence of uncertainty. The blood goes from the front of your brain. I use this, and I talk about this all the time. It goes from the front of your brain, which is your conscientiousness, where you draw from that database to make decisions and live your life on a regular basis, to the back of your brain, which is the lobe of your brain, or the part of your brain that is quick and reactionary, right? And so there are all of these things that you cannot do. You're bloated all of the time because your digestive system slows down because it's controlled by your nervous system, and so it's not moving food, and you get bloated. I mean, you literally live at a fraction of the energy and vitality you are supposed to have when you are caught in a state of fight or flight. And the problem with it is your body doesn't know the difference when it comes to levels of uncertainty. It realizes when the house is on fire and that you've got to move quickly. But over a period of time, your body starts to live in that state when it's chronically spending more money than you're making, right? That's uncertainty. When you're with the person that you're not supposed to be with, and you're not supposed to be with them, and they're always yelling at you or manipulating you, like, your body will stay, though it's in a lower grade of uncertainty, and the hormones that are being released are not as big and powerful because they're on all of the time. you literally will start to die while you live.
Okay, so how do you know if you are living in chronic stress? Because, we started this conversation talking about how, like, basically every single thing that we do or have or experience is an invitation. Like, there's potential for stress there. Sure. And so I imagine that there's a lot of people that are living in a state of fight or flight, or living in this place of chronic stress, and they might not even realize it anymore because it's become their new normal. Sure. And so maybe they're starting to think like, oh, well, I never really sleep very well, or I feel really bloated, or maybe they don't realize things that are happening with their capillaries or whatever. And so how do you start to kind of uncover how you are living?
Yeah, I think it is, I like to say that it's a meter, right? Like your gas gauge or your battery. And on one side is exhaustion, the feelings of being exhausted all the time. Mm-hmm. And the other is enthusiasm. On the other side is enthusiasm. And so there's this enthusiasm versus exhaustion meter. You can be in a very difficult situation, solving problems, or being a chef in a restaurant, or a nurse on a trauma unit, and be in the presence of uncertainty, helping others on a regular basis, and still, because you're practicing self-care and you're rooted and grounded with certainty because of who you believe in and your ability to differentiate who you are and what you're doing from the results, that your enthusiasm can stay for life, your enthusiasm for life and your life specifically can stay relatively high, especially as you honor your body's need to rest and recover over a 1 to 2 day period of time. Yeah. And again, a lot on this podcast comes back to awareness. Yeah. That being aware is such an important part of the equation, and most of the time a first step toward healing and realizing, like, you know what? I always do see the downside of what's not. People that are trapped in a chronic state of stress always anticipate the worst. They always think they're going to get the flu. They always, and what they don't realize is it's a protection mechanism. Because if you anticipate the worst, you can't be disappointed anymore, because you quote unquote saw it and said it was coming. Yeah.
The awareness, we always come back to awareness, and it's such a big deal. But I think, we talk about how everything happens for a reason. And so, right now I'm experiencing some really intense back pain. And there's something happening there. Yeah. It's not just my body all of a sudden decided my back should hurt.
No, for sure.
There is something happening. And so I think being aware physically of how you are feeling, how you are sleeping, how you feel after a meal, how you feel after a conversation with a particular person, it's all telling you something.
Oh, I mean, we've talked about the book, The Body Keeps Score, which is a good book. It was written years ago. And just that your body typically is a manifestation of what you're going through. You and I were talking earlier about your back, because you have issues in the area of your back that I had issues in mine. And I was laughing because we said in one of our first episodes on this podcast that we think in American culture that the brain or our intellect has to be aware of the energy around us in order to benefit or suffer, right? In your case, from it. Yeah. And it's just not the case. And so here you are taking on some of the things that you're taking on that are uncertain, right? Like you guys are starting to look for a new house, things like that. Like there's it's an invitation to uncertainty. Yeah. And you're okay with it from an intellectual standpoint. You know what you're getting into, and the fact that you could be disappointed or your hopes be dashed or just disappointed. Yeah. And your body, yes, you say that, but your body still feels it.
Right.
And that's where positive affirmations come in. And where that time of withdrawing becomes so important.
Yeah.
That you know how to withdraw and remind yourself of who you are and who's fighting for you and why things are going to work out. Yeah. But there are certain things that you can just start to pay attention to that really, like perfectionism is another trauma response. It's another thing that happens from the person that is caught in that state of fight or flight somewhere down the road, and typically from a parent. Someone got conditioned to believe that their value was in their ability to get everything right and make no mistakes. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so these are the subtle things that we don't always pick up on, but the moment we start becoming more aware of the energy that surrounds us and our response to it, the easier it is for us to handle it.
Yeah. So one more question. How do you come back when you realize that you've kind of spiraled or you've fought or flew? How do you come back from that to get your body back to a healthy place with all that you've described that can or does go on biologically?
Yeah, it really comes down to learning how to be in the presence of uncertainty, but be certain. And what we're certain is, or what we're certain in, is that who and therefore what is for us is greater than anything that is against us or that we're up against. It is certainty in the presence of uncertainty. And literally we could spend hours talking about examples of uncertainty. But if you just start to monitor your exhaustion, your feeling of exhaustion mm-hmm. versus enthusiasm, mm-hmm. you will be able to pinpoint the things or situations or people or environments that are making you feel uncertain. And one of the keys to it is to realize that the stress or the uncertainty is not coming. Here's the motion chip, right? Mm-hmm. It's not coming from that immediate situation. It's what the situation is telling you that you have an opportunity to be uncertain about, or you can confront that uncertainty with the certainty of who you are, what you believe in, and how that is working for you, and how this situation will work out for your good. Yeah. That ultimately, I tell people that fear, which is a manifestation of uncertainty, mm-hmm. is faith that things will not work out, right? Yeah. And that's because often people, A, don't realize that they're living their life by faith, whether they know it or not, but B, it's rooted and grounded in them, which is not something that is strong enough to come up against or confront the uncertainty they are going to have to face if they're going to climb that mountain and accomplish their dreams.
Yeah. That's good.
Episode 7, ladies and gentlemen, here on Emotion Chips, where we talk about the real reason everything happens for a reason. Signing off.
Till next time.
Till next time.